All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 24th, 2026 East Lansing Planning Commission meeting. Ms. Wrighton, could you please take roll? I'm getting an echo.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that.
I was telling the truth.
Commissioner Denault. Commissioner Greening. Here. Commissioner Lapine. Commissioner Overby.
Here.
Commissioner Putz.
Here.
Commissioner Roberts.
Here.
Vice Chair Wagner.
Here.
Chair Sullivan.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you much. Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Denault, seconded by Vice Chair Wagner. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Agenda approved. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the June 10th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Overby, seconded by Commissioner Ramirez-Roberts. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor vote aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Minutes approved. It takes us on to item number 2, committee reports. Up first, 2.1 Data Center Staff Work Group, Ms. Wrighton, and then Putz and Greening.
So I'll let them do their
Okay.
committee reports, please.
Commissioner Putz or Greening, whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, for the data center working group, we met yesterday for the second time. It's become a really interesting conversation. We've had people from, we've been involving folks from the city for Department of Public Works, IT. I think we had the head of wastewater treatment plant there yesterday, and I'm blanking on a few other names, but it's been a pretty wide-ranging group for the discussions. We've kind of approached it from a bunch of different levels, from macro, regional, and micro. I think we have some pretty good paths forward to explore, but it's proving to be a really interesting conversation, I think. Yeah. That about sum it, I think?
Thank you. Commissioner Greening, anything you'd like to add?
Well, I think probably one of the most interesting points that came out under the State of Michigan Zoning Enabling Act of 2006, mouthful, we cannot use zoning regulations to exclude activities within our city. So that has a way of limiting and guiding the final recommendations that we come out with. In other words, we're not going to be able to ban data centers outright using a zoning regulation. We also have to be careful in designing those regulations that we don't effectively exclude. Our IT person said, "You mean divide by zero." And if you know what divide by zero, everything's infinity. We can't do that. We have to come up with a reasonable set of guide rails. And that's what the conversation, a lot of the conversation dealt with, is defining where the areas were we needed to define guardrails. And that actually the state legislature has a package of something like 7 or 8 bills moving through to regulate water consumption, energy consumption, some of the other factors that that we need to look at.
Well said, thank you. Any questions or discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, that takes us on to item number 3, staff reports. Ms. Wrighton?
In your packet, you had the last 2 weeks' worth of city council or city office reports from the manager's office. Also wanted to report that on June 16th, the city council deferred action for 401 East Grand River, which is the Howard, and the rooftop expansion for 133 Evergreen, which is the Graduate, to the July 21st meeting. They also held a public hearing regarding the proposed ordinance 1559, which would amend section 50-94 of the zoning ordinance defining a diverse housing requirement in downtown. The amendments would allow for a fee to be paid in lieu of meeting the requirement, defines a formula for that fee, and to allow for the transfer of diverse housing credits from areas outside of downtown. Number of public hearings were scheduled for the July 21st meeting for the DeWitt Township zoning, the rental overlay districts, the 825 West Lake Lansing, the cleanup ordinance 1576 to require the special use approval for multifamily residential units in certain business districts, clarifying the requirements for retail sales of alcohol for off-site consumption, and the requirements of certain building incentives. Also, they scheduled public hearings for August 11th for the Stoll Road public hearing, as well as the Green Code amendments. And I would like to let the Planning Commission know that staff was made aware yesterday that there may be a requirement for the two most recent developments to provide a parking plan for a public hearing based on section 50-593 of the zoning ordinance. And I say may because there are still conversations that we are having with our city attorney. We are planning in anticipation that they would be required, and notices have gone for a public hearing to be held on July 22nd. That is separate from tonight's decision and should not impact your vote for this evening. That will be handled separately if indeed it is necessary. Any questions?
Ms.
Can I
McCarthy?
just add real quick? I just wanted to let you guys know that Felicia French-Kroll is joining us tonight. She's our administrative staff for the building department, and she's doing cross-training with Linda, so she'll probably be here the next couple meetings.
Thank you for that. Any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. That takes us on to item number 4, Commissioner announcements. This is also your time to disclose any conflicts of interest on any item on tonight's agenda, as well as any other general announcements. So, any announcements? All right. Takes us on to item number 5, communications from citizens. Up first, item 5.1, written communications. I did see several on the agenda packet regarding item 8.1, the Albert Avenue item. Did I miss anything else?
No.
Okay. Keep me honest. Thank you. Up next is verbal from the audience. So this is your time to come forward and address the Planning Commission on any item on or off tonight's agenda. We do ask that you keep your comments to under 5 minutes. Identify yourself on a card up there if you have yet to do so. And as there are no public hearings tonight, this is your time and sole time to address the Planning Commission on tonight's agenda. And again, items not on tonight's agenda. So I'm going to start with the cards I have up here, and then we can go to the audience. Up first is Douglas Crone.
Thank you. I'm here to address the proposed building on the Albert Bailey parking lot area right now. 2/3 of the current surface parking lot is for sale. We know that. 1/3 is owned by the city, the third that's on Bailey Street. It will be developed sometime because it is for sale. I understand that. I've built buildings in this town. I've built buildings in other places. There is no other close municipal parking to the 500 and 600 block. That's really get out of your car and go to the stores or go to the businesses. In the 500 or 600 block, you've got parking garage, I believe, in the 400 block. Public parking is very important to businesses. I represent the Albert Place condominiums. I built I'm an owner there, I built it, and there are 36 residential units in it, no commercial businesses. The Stonehouse, the commercial spaces and everything in the 600 block, from Jimmy John's to Insomnia and soon to be Crepe Sake, will be moving into the Taco Bell space. Those are all part of my properties. Stonehouse 6, which is Recharge Pilates, Mocha, Eiffel Waffle, and there are 36 apartments, 88 residents that live there. That was built, I believe, about 7 years ago. 551 through 555 East Grand River has got the closed Moose Jaw store. I've been trying to lease. 3,000 square foot is very difficult to lease in this town right now. There's DP Dough. Poke Fresh is being changed to a Hangry Joe's Chicken. And Rice Kitchen has been sold to a different owner now, and I think they're going to be putting some money into it and cleaning that up. The last proposal that TDP had on this lot had, I think we lost 3 or 4 parking spaces. That was good, because it brought 400 or 500 people in the area, which would have helped that end of downtown. And that was, I believe that was not accepted because of the height of it. The residential parking that they're requesting, they have 436 residents in there, 110 parking spaces. Stonehouse Village 6, as I call it, which is the apartments above Eiffel Waffle and Mocha and Recharge Pilates. I have a parking agreement for the same garage that they're using, which is I believe a 50-year agreement. It's 5 10-year agreements. We have about 1 to every 2 residents that we are renting right now from the city. So we're renting twice what they're anticipating at their 110 spaces for 400 some people. The hub, there was a mention in the ELI article that I read. The hub says that they have 158 spaces. Many of those are tandem. And there are people, I have a building that we manage for another owner down right across from the hub, that they have 1 space for 18 apartments, and we are renting spaces because the students or the tenants come with cars. Not as strong as they used to. I cannot believe that over time, but I think budgets are getting tight with people at home, and if they want to live downtown and pay the high rents, I think a lot of the parents are saying they don't need cars. That is basically my concern, is parking. But there are some other concerns that I have is, I talked to Cody about this. We had some meetings prior to bringing it to the city, and I am extremely concerned about creating an alley with block walls, brick walls, whatever we want, on both sides of it. That's an accident waiting to happen. I mean, a building like that's going to be, I don't know what the width of that property is, but I would guess it's in the 200 to 300 foot range. I wouldn't want to walk down a dark alley, or even if it's well lit, with concrete walls and there's no place to get out. Right now, you walk out of the back of any of those businesses, you can see right through to Albert Street. Another concern, deliveries and drop-offs.
Thank you. If you could
I have
please
30 seconds.
wrap up your comments. Yeah.
I'll wrap it up. Deliveries and drop-offs. We've seen what's happened in front of the hub. Albert's a 2-lane street. You've got 400 and some people moving in there. Construction logistics. That's going to be difficult with that site. So, those are my comments.
Thank you for your comments. Michael Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Michael Kruger, owner of Peanut Barrel, Chair of the Downtown Development Authority. As you all know, I submitted a letter 2 weeks ago stating my opposition to the current proposal. I see no reason to reread that letter. However, I do want to bring the Commissioner's attention to page 10 of your agenda item, 8.1, the proposal for the development of Lot 530. Alicia alluded to this a bit earlier, but specifically the part about development standards, section 5593L subsection 3, which reads, if the application would result in an increase of more than 10 spaces within a 2-year period or would exceed the limit of 75% of available spaces described above, the applicant shall submit a parking plan to the Planning Commission for review at a public hearing. I can read that the staff report states that the proposal does not exceed the 75% limit of available spaces, which I am assuming means that has met that particular standard. However, my question is about the part where it states that if the application would result in an increase of more than 10 spaces within a 2-year period, the applicant shall submit a parking plan to the Planning Commission for review at a public hearing. I would argue that a development of this size, as well as the size of the Howard development, would most certainly result in an increase of more than 10 spaces. Furthermore, reading the entirety of Ordinance 1443 subsection 3, wherein the development standards are stated, the last sentence states, the Planning Commission shall approve the parking plan if it determines that the proposed use would not adversely affect surrounding properties and public facilities. I would most certainly argue that this proposal will adversely affect the businesses of the 500 block. Eliminating 90+ spaces behind our businesses will be detrimental to all of them. So I guess the question is, will there actually be a public hearing? So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Danita Brandt.
Danita Brandt on Linden Street, Bailey resident. And I'm here to basically reiterate my remarks of 2 weeks ago about East Lansing's identity crisis that stems from the disconnect between our vision, as most recently enunciated by the comprehensive plan, and which is nicely summarized in this full-colored postcard, between the plan and implementation of this vision through our codes and ordinances, the rules that currently allow Cody to bring this project forward for consideration, a project that checks off one of the takeaway speech bubbles on the back of this full-color postcard, but does not, without the consideration or context of at least 5 other takeaway speech bubbles on this plan that detail or flesh out the vision for how high-density housing might be realized. Cody's proposing a luxury dorm for a transient population who are focused on their now and who really have little stake in a longer-term vision for the city. Cody's project also does not provide much, if any, wiggle room for potential future demographic shifts in the building's occupants. For example, without a freight elevator, and I hope I'm not misrepresenting this from last time, I could not hope to rent a unit myself and bring my king-size bed and my baby grand piano with me. Just briefly, we've spent a lot of time and effort to craft a comprehensive plan, and let's work to bring the rules and ordinances and regulations in line with this vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul and Leah Martin.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to speak. My name is Paul Martin. I've been running the Wild Goose Inn Bed and Breakfast for the last 17 years, and it is located 10 feet from the proposed development. I'm here today to express my strong opposition to this 10-story building proposed by Terrain Development Partners and Cody Dietrich. I am deeply concerned about the significant long-term impact this project will have on all the small businesses in the 500 block. This is my wife, Leah.
Hello, Planning Commissioners. My name is Leah. Typically, I would be watching with our 3 little girls, aged 2, 4, and 6, at home on the live stream while Dad makes his comments, and discussions are had over developing the lot next to the inn. This time, we had Grandma babysit so we can paint more of the picture of what this truly means to us. I am an MSU grad and proud Spartan. We are not against the growth of East Lansing. We just want to make sure that our small business can survive too. Paul and I will own the inn. The success of the inn is our livelihood for our young family. In order for us to continue to serve our guests with the hospitality we proudly provide, we need accessible and convenient parking for our business to continue to thrive. We need visibility so we can be seen as the little oasis in the city destination we currently are. Thank you.
Our main concern is for this proposed development that it provides zero parking while removing 86 parking spots that are already there. This building will have over 400 students living in it, and these students are paying per month at least $1,800 for a studio and $4,500 for a 3-bedroom. I'm assuming if they can afford this and rent, they can afford to have a car. With this much overflow, residents, visitors, service vehicles, and delivery drivers will inevitably seek parking on nearby streets and/or alleyways, creating congestion and reducing parking availability for existing residents and businesses. Convenient parking is essential for my guests. My other concern is the negative impact it will have on the property values and neighborhood character. Existing property owners have invested heavily on this community. Approving a project of this magnitude without adequate parking and buffering shifts the burden of development onto neighboring property owners and businesses. The project's scale and intensity risk reducing property values and diminishing the character that makes this area attractive in the first place. For these reasons, I respectfully urge you to deny this proposal. If this proposal does go through, the inn would need 6 parking spots directly in front of Albert Avenue during construction and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Al Bay?
My name's Al Bay. I own the Wild Goose Inn and live at 512 Albert Avenue. The City of East Lansing is currently considering a new proposal to build a 10-story apartment building in downtown East Lansing with 0 on-site parking. Currently, the property in question is the much-used Bailey Street parking lot that provides easy access to small businesses in the 500 block of Grand River Avenue. The new plan eliminates 83 downtown parking spaces and includes no on-site parking for residents or visitors to our downtown. The 530 Albert Avenue development, as proposed without parking, will damage not only the existing businesses in the 500 block and beyond, but will work against the continued fostering of a diverse, equitable, and inclusive downtown for residents, visitors, and shoppers to enjoy. Possibly 2 major developments are to be added to the district with a simultaneous major reduction in available parking. As a result, we're headed for a major parking crisis at the east end of our city. Every day I work at my kitchen window and look out at the Bailey Street parking lot. Probably 30, 40 times a day, 365 days a year, 25 years. Conservatively speaking, I've looked out at that lot over 300,000 times. So I can tell you, I've always known how important it is to my business, and as a result of my unique vantage point, I've come to understand how vitally important that piece of real estate is to our community and our downtown. One thing I know about real estate is they're not making any more of it. And whatever decision we make, we had better make the right one. If you were looking at successful high-rise developments in our city, you would find that they all have provided some sort of on-site parking. It's common sense. Furthermore, paying for the construction of the parking should be the responsibility of the developer, not the city. I'm requesting that the Planning Commission deny the development proposal based on an inadequate parking plan and its anticipated adverse effect on adjacent businesses and future residents. Subsequently, I would hope that the city and developer would work together to create a proposal that provides for on-site parking. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to come forward and address the planning commission? Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Cody Dietrich with Tree and Development Partners, applicant for the 530 Albert project. I'll be available for questions as you have them as our item comes up, but I just wanted to get up and respond that we were able to add the recycling and trash notes to the plans that you requested last time, then submitted some examples of the geothermal that was requested. So we satisfied those items that you had requested. Our application still remains zoning compliant. I would like to note too on the parking is prohibited being built on site. And part of where these conversations are going is putting the onus back on us to provide parking for the city. That's not part of the deal. Even the zoning code talks about the city taking on the onus for building the parking. So I feel like that's a misfair interpretation of our expectation for the property. We previously tried this. Unfortunately, it did not work out, but trying to put that onus back on us isn't fair, and it's trying to take our property. So I'll turn it over to our land use attorney. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Courtney Gabara-Agrusa. I'm an attorney with Foster Swift. Our law firm represents TDP Acquisitions. We've been assisting them while they have worked with the city, so for the past several months. Having reviewed the Planning Commission meeting minutes, video, your ordinances, and having communicated with your city attorney on multiple occasions, I really want to speak in favor of this development and all the hard work that Cody and his team have put into this to make sure that they comply with all of your requests. I think you guys have you've thrown a lot of asks at them, and I think Cody and his team have handled them with grace. I think they've gone above and beyond in terms of their communication with the community and how they have addressed all of your concerns in the ordinance, and I just hope that you hear Cody out and see the benefit of this development. And I say that not only as their legal counsel, but also as a double Spartan myself and a former resident of this great community. So I'm here as well if there are any other questions. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to come forward and address the planning commission? Yeah, please fill one out if you can. You can fill it out after you speak if you want. Just identify yourself now and then hand it to city staff.
My name's Jonathan Howard. I'm owner of Flat Black and Circular in East Lansing. We've been there since 1977. I've been there myself 36 years, and before that I was an MSU student. So I've seen all the development back there where there used to be residences. Our concern, we can echo what they have talked about with the parking, also the impact of having that many residents who are going to be getting deliveries, who are going to be getting family visiting them, and where are all these cars going to go. They're definitely going to fill up the Division Street lot pretty easily from what we've seen, the traffic there. We are really dependent on people doing short-term parking, loading and unloading heavy records from us, many of them elderly or first-time visitors to East Lansing who are handling estates or out-of-town visitors. We get visitors from all over the U.S. and worldwide because we're such a niche kind of business. We are very concerned about the year or two where these people are going to find us and what the place is going to look like during construction. And if the commission or the city planning is doing anything to help promote people coming in during this kind of mess that's going to be there. Me and my worker were kind of got behind the last proposal that had 3 stories of parking under it. I hope something like that can be developed where the residents can have parking and the public can have parking and visitors can have parking. And there's also a place for all the Grubhub people and Amazon deliveries are going to be at something like that. My daughter is at MSU, and I've witnessed what kind of traffic they get there with Amazon deliveries and food deliveries, and that kind of intensity on something that's got 400 residents, that there's going to be an impact there. There has to be some place for these people to pull up and deliver. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you. I'll drop this with you.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to come forward? Okay. As a reminder, this is your time to address the Planning Commission. There's no public hearings tonight. Okay. Seeing none, is there anyone online in the queue?
There is someone on the queue, however, it's the applicant for 8.2.
Okay. Great. Well, that closes tonight's item number 5, communications from citizens. As we have no public hearings or unfinished business, that takes us on to item number 8, new business. Up first is 8.1, a request from Cody Dietrich on behalf of TDP Acquisitions LLC for approval of a site plan for a 10-story mixed-use development consisting of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom dwelling units and ground floor commercial space located at 530 Albert Avenue. The property is zoned B3 City Center Commercial Business District. Ms. Wrighton?
Good evening again. You saw this project presentation 2 weeks ago. Two of the questions that were left for the applicant addressed the geothermal question as well as labeling the recycling, which they have done. It is a 10-story proposal. 8 stories are permitted by right with a principal use on the first floor, which they are proposing the coffee shop, which meets that definition. They're gaining an additional 2 stories by right through the LEED program. They have utilized the geothermal as part of their LEED documentation. However, that number is not dependent on it. So if they, for some reason, were not to do the geothermal, they still had enough points to proceed and obtain their LEED certification. Just to touch a little bit on that geothermal, I did speak with Eagle. Ingham County is the permitting agent and regulating body for the geothermal process, and they'll be the ones to administer all of the requirements for the project to follow. I would like to remind everyone that parking is prohibited. As much as people are concerned about the parking not being provided, it's because it's not allowed. The applicant didn't ask for it. We can't make them do that. It's just simply not allowed in the B3 district. However, the applicant is providing on street, an additional 8 temporary loading and unloading spaces, which will provide for 10 along Albert Avenue. There'll be metered temporary loading and unloading spaces, and they'll be going to the Transportation Commission for that recommendation on the 13th of July. I had previously provided that information to the Transportation Commission, and they didn't have any comments at that time, but they'll do their formal recommendation on the 13th. It was mentioned again, the parking plan concern. We are working with the city attorney to determine whether or not a public hearing is necessary based on discussions related to the information that's already been provided. However, we are scheduled for a public hearing on July 22nd for a parking plan if it's needed. That should not have any impact on tonight's decision, which is a separate vote. Also would like to indicate that the applicant is providing 436 individual units, and based on their calculations that they provided in the packet, utilizing a 0.2 allowance for a need for parking on, it would be 111 spaces of the available spaces that the city parking department has decided would be available for a monthly rental. They would be offered 110 spaces of that 111 that they've calculated as a need. That need they demonstrate in their calculations, showing other universities, communities using the same sort of statistics. Also wanted to mention the concerns related to the neighboring property and the staging. The neighboring property owner had concerns previously, which the applicant has provided a 10-foot setback on the west side of the property. Setbacks are 0 for this particular zoning district, and they're providing 10. They also have an interior courtyard on the first floor, which they had indicated at the last meeting that they'll use for their staging area for construction. So there'll be limited impact on the alleyway. And if you have additional questions about that, the applicant can address them. And I think that's the main points. If you have any specific questions, I can answer for you or the applicant.
Thank you. Questions? Commissioner Chapin and then Ramirez Roberts.
Okay, so thank you for that update, and thank you to TDP. I'm going to stay away from using the word Cody. I don't want to make this personal. This is a development that your company is presenting to the community of East Lansing. So I'm going to stay away from names here, but I appreciate all input here. I want to go to need a clarification for all of us here, Alicia. The memo from Cliff Walls in the packet, I don't see a date on it, but it is in our most updated packet, and he talks about the geothermal issue. And I just want to, I'm ready, if we do make a motion tonight, to add a bullet just to sort of validate his last paragraph, staff position. Staff does not have sufficient information at this time to conclude that the proposed geothermal installation can be accomplished safely in this location. He goes on, it's a longer paragraph, but geez, I don't think we can leave that hanging without a little input in terms of where that stands. So I'd like to have a little input from you, or however we'd like to proceed.
If the applicant would be a better
I'll defer to you,
indicate, but
Alicia, okay? I mean, if you want to bring the applicant up, that's fine.
So I'll give a brief and then let them fill in the blanks, if that's okay.
That's great.
So the way that
Just as a matter of procedure, I suggest we ask city staff questions, and then when the applicant comes up, we can readdress that with the applicant.
So the way that the system works is there's a cylinder that's put into the ground, and then the dirt on the outside is pumped with concrete, but the dirt comes up and out. And then there's another cylinder that goes on the inside, and that protects the potential for contamination getting into the groundwater by that dual canister system, if you will. There's a different word, and the applicant can clarify when you have questions for them. But Ingham County has the permitting requirements, and those standards have to be met by the county. Cliff's concerns are valid, and of course can be addressed, but Ingham County is the permitting agent. It's my understanding that it's a closed loop system. After talking with a representative at Eagle, which is similar to others, it's just called under a different program name. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, no, I think that's okay. I'm just, prepping for my vote here at some point this evening, and I'm just a little concerned with how he's left that. So I had written down in my notes here that I would add a bullet point. I think we have 9 in the recommended motion that would address that, something to the effect of final approval from the Environmental Sustainability and Resiliency Manager as it pertains to the proposed geothermal installation. So I'm actually want to get this out. Is it appropriate to say that, or is your response to this where you want this to land? I want to land in a comfortable space when I cast my vote tonight.
So obviously, the Planning Commission makes their recommendations as they see fit. Ingham County is the permitting agent. We are not, but it's reasonable to consider putting a condition that they follow the requirements of the Ingham County permitting and work with the city environmental department to satisfy requirements.
If we get to that, maybe you can help me with how I might add that condition. Okay?
Commissioner Ramirez-Roberts, was your comment on the same topic, or was it?
No, it was not
Okay.
geothermal.
Do you mind if I ask a follow-up question to this real quick? So I just said another way, I think that's a valid point, and I took Cliff's comments is more so like he doesn't have the expertise in the geothermal space because the county is the essentially authority on that issue. I guess said another way, what mechanism would we have if they're getting the bonus height due to lead, due to geothermal as a component of that, if they do not meet the geothermal requirements after the building is built?
They have enough points to meet the minimum requirement for LEED Gold without the geothermal. They would go with a different mechanical system.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful. Commissioner Ramirez-Roberts?
Yes, and I know this is going back to the parking, because I know you said it's a separate issue. I just want to kind of frame it in my mind for the parking plan. Since they're not allowed to build the parking, what would the parking plan constitute? Essentially saying we're not allowed to build parking, so we can't build it?
So the criteria in section 50-593 talks about the employees and tenants and where they're anticipated to park, where peak times are anticipated based on the use. So for their coffee shop on the first floor, what are their hours and what are their anticipated peak times? Some of the information related to the general how are they going to be sure to limit how many vehicles are coming with their applicant?
Okay.
Or with their tenants. Those are just a couple of the points.
Okay. Can I just have one closing thing about the geothermal?
Sure.
I kind of brought this up at our last meeting, but there have been a lot of advancements in geothermal technology in the last few years, and I know especially Ann Arbor, they've utilized it heavily with building out their own public utility system, so I don't have concerns about the geothermal. It's pretty safe from everything.
Okay, thank you.
That's good.
Vice Chair?
I do have a question about Section 5593. So we've heard from a lot of people about parking, and it's not that there's no parking that's going to be built. That it's taking away parking from businesses. So I need you to help me understand this. So I just want to read really quickly. Applications for a building and or occupancy permit to construct or expand a building or to convert or extend the use of a building which would result in an increased parking demand as determined by the standards in section 58.812 shall be submitted to the planning and zoning official for review. So I think it's not that they're not building parking, it's they're taking away parking from the area, which does increase demand for parking, which is what, every business owner here is saying, right? So why don't why wouldn't this be like a special use or?
Parking's prohibited in the B3, so that's the straight
Right.
answer.
Right.
But related to Section 593 for the development standards, which references 812, they provide where the people are going to park. And the parking that they're taking away is a leased area that is on private property. So the city leases the property for parking.
Right. But doesn't that still increase parking demand because there were, let's say, 20 spaces, and now there will be 40 spaces for the businesses?
So the analysis that they've provided through the process, they have a traffic study. Within their traffic study, they have information related to parking and who's parking where, and it'll be addressed, as I previously mentioned, when we get to the parking plan requirement for the public hearing in the July 22nd meeting. But again, that is a separate standalone item. It's a difficult situation when parking is prohibited in the district to require them to provide something that they aren't allowed to have. And then they'll demonstrate in their proposal, which they had done throughout, that the way that they determine the number that they anticipate is needed, similar through other college towns, a 0.2 ratio of tenant parking need. And with the coffee shop, a lot of times, in my own experience, I walk to our coffee shops, so it's anticipated. They also have an abundance of the bicycle parking. Also close to campus, it's anticipated that tenants could possibly be students or professors that could walk to campus. So the standards of 812 are relevant if you're requiring parking, but we can't require parking because it's a prohibited item.
Yeah, I get that. I just want to know, like, where it says which would increase or result in an increased parking demand. So it's complicated, right? Because they're taking away spaces, which I think everyone in the audience is saying is increasing demand for parking. Is that not?
It's reducing the supply.
Right. Which increases demand. Right?
Which from a
right?
from a development,
I'm not an economist, but
from a development standpoint, you're developing, you're going to need more parking, no matter what it is. But the way that they've identified the need for the parking versus what's being removed for parking where they're not allowed to have it, it is kind of a catch-22. So yes, they're increasing a demand because they're removing it. But again, when it's not allowed, it's a difficult situation.
Okay, thanks.
Couple other questions. Is there any other questions down here? I kind of want to stay in parking for a minute, but.
Well, comments eventually. I don't
Okay.
know if we're at comments at this point, but.
No, I think we got to bring the applicant up too, and then okay, so I want to talk about the whole parking plan dynamic, which is new to me, and sort of the sequencing of doing the site plan and then doing that later. So this site plan has a component with the parking plan, with the parking ratios, with their narrative that they've outlined. what happens, I guess, in theory, if this is approved and then we get the parking plan and then that's not approved? How is it conditioned? Does one have to come before the other? Could you explain that at a high level?
So one does not have to come before the other. City staff had determined that 75% would be a bigger impact on the downtown if they had met that ratio, and that's, we were notified yesterday that that was an incorrect interpretation, which is why the parking plan will come separately on July 22nd. They do end up standing alone. It's anticipated that upon the recommendation of Planning Commission getting to City Council, that City Council would condition their action based on the Planning Commission's decision, because the Planning Commission does make the decision on the parking plan the following day.
Okay. Commissioner Overby, do you have a question?
So, well, just to clarify, so the city council on review of the Albert proposal and the Howard will make a recommendation based on the condition that a parking plan come back to the Planning Commission. And if the Planning Commission approves that parking plan, then those projects are approved.
So,
is that correct? Help me with the sequencing, please.
Yeah, so your recommendation this evening will go to the City Council meeting on the July 21st. If they choose to vote that evening, it would be anticipated that they would have it as a condition that the parking plan for both projects be approved by the Planning Commission. If not, then there would be essentially,
they would take it up at a future meeting then.
So City Council could decide, or they could postpone.
Right.
They could wait to see if the Planning Commission has a decision, if the decision is yes or no. If the applicant has demonstrated by what the ordinance requires, for both applicants have to do that, so Howard is also going to be doing that. If they demonstrate those and meet those standards, then the Planning Commission would be held to understanding that those standards are met. If not, then you would make your recommendation or your decision elsewise. It would impact potentially the decision that City Council makes if they're saying that they're recommending for, or I'm sorry, if City Council offers an approval conditioned on approval of the Planning Commission approving the parking plan, excuse me, so many plans, then it would in effect not be approved.
Thank you.
So said another way, so if City Council were to vote on both of those and add a condition that planning had to approve a parking plan for not only this, but the other project that's out there, and we were to vote no subsequently on the parking plan, that would essentially kill both applications, and then they would have to start over, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Makes sense now. Thank you. Commissioner Denault?
Alicia, I'm also really hung up on this, on the sequencing for these things. I don't know that I feel really comfortable moving this project forward before seeing the parking plan. So I just wanted to clarify, you mentioned that City Council could defer their decision if we haven't had a chance to make a decision on the parking plan. So I guess my question is, do we have the power to also defer our decision on this project until we can see the parking plan in a month?
You have the power to make recommendations as you see fit. However, they do meet the requirements as I've outlined in my staff report of the site plan. And the parking plan is a separate standalone public hearing, which, as I said, we just learned was required and has been scheduled. And City Council could vote, they could defer to vote until after they hear it, but they could do that even if it weren't subject to that. But the conditions that are to be looked at are for the site plan requirements. So.
But the parking plan is essentially going to be what's before us with this, right? So it's not new information necessarily.
Right.
Okay. So it seems like it's a lot of additional processes to potentially get to the same end, in my opinion. But anyways, it's a good question. Any other comments or questions for city staff down here? Commissioner Greening.
I think that this building is long overdue to come to our community. It's a beautiful building, and I actually have been doing energy efficiency professionally since 1992, and I'm going, wow, somebody's getting the message. Thank you. And your application was very well done. It showed a good deal of professionalism. However, there's always a however with an economist. I support geothermal, okay? Any renewable energy I support. However, we've got the issue of the site being contaminated. And part of my background includes a degree in geology and 13 years in an industry poking holes in the ground. No matter how well engineered a project is and how you think it's going to be successful, there's no guarantee. And we're dealing with not only the water supply of East Lansing, but quite a bit of southeastern Michigan. So a breach would be of serious concern. I would feel that a cautionary note ought to be attached to any recommendation that there are concerns about this, specifically because of the contamination of the site. In addition to the potential technical issues, I'm wondering if the city would be handed a liability issue in terms of, say, cleanup or having approved knowing that the site is contaminated, that the city then becomes liable for cleanup or remediation efforts to not only within our city, but all of the communities around it. That could be a fairly large number. So I think that we ought to add a cautionary note. It would not be, it's not a reason to deny the building. Looking at the code and the building and the application, it meets all the requirements. So I think we would have to approve it.
Did you have a question for city staff on this component? Are you considering adding a condition to it? Is there anything that could be directed at staff?
I don't know how we would phrase it as a condition. That's a problem.
Do you have a specific question for me?
What?
Do you have a specific question for me?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that the thing would be to phrase it as a concern, a caution. It would not prevent the building of the building. Mm-hmm. It's the geothermal component. And if they don't need it for LEED certification,
Yeah, valid point. Commissioner Chapin?
I might just comment. I think following up, I appreciate what you said, and I think there's kind of this common concern here, but I think you have indicated, if I've heard you correctly, Alicia, that there is an oversight for this through the Ingham County
Health Department.
Yeah, so I think we have to depend on them and their credibility to make sure that the issues that you've addressed, Lorna, and I've been concerned about, and others here as well. So I think we have some appropriate, technical, credible oversight. And if we could, I would feel comfortable with adding a bullet point at the end. I think that sort of addresses where you are as well on our conditions. So, okay, we got people wanting to get in here, so.
I know the applicant wants to be able to.
I'll be quiet for the moment, so.
But if there's anything else for me, I know the applicant would like to.
Okay.
Yeah, I had one kind of final question, just to put a cap on this item before the applicant comes up. So is there any other outstanding issues or deficiencies that still need to be addressed with the project? Is there anything we're waiting on city staff for?
No.
Anything, okay. Nothing along those lines that we still need to consider?
Fishbeck was the last response, which is the traffic study, third party that the city uses for traffic study analysis, and their letter was uploaded to the packet and recommended approval of the traffic study.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Okay, at this point, we're ready for the applicant. If you want to come up and address us, I think we have a few questions.
Perfect. Cody Dietrich again with Tree Development Partners. Do you have a specific spot you want me to start? Geothermal maybe is the big one.
If you want to start there, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, so we actually had a all hands on deck meeting after the Cliff email. It seemed, he admitted he didn't have necessarily that sense of expertise, but wanted to put these things out there. So we had planning staff. Cliff was out of town, so then we had the engineering staff. We had Ingham County. We had the Darcy manufacturer of the geothermal system, which we sent over a couple case studies as part of our response last week. And so we went through this whole piece, and Ingham County had both their head person as well as their person who manages the environmental side. And we went through our geology reports and geotechnical. The soils are they're clay between about 25 and 35 feet, offering a great buffer for preventing any contamination going down. And so the way their system works is they would actually drill a municipal well, which you guys have throughout the city. We referenced to East Lansing public schools. Elementary schools have geothermal wells that have penetrated the aquifer. They went deeper in that piece than we would go. But with these municipal wells, what we would do is we'd do an outside casing of 18 inches. And so that'd get put down to that clay level, and then they'd pour grout or a concrete slurry around. It'd go down through the center, come up around the sides to protect and encase that area to prevent any groundwater from leaking in. And then inside that 18-inch casing, they would then take a 12-inch casing and go inside that well, do the same thing all the way down to the aquifer, and then have the concrete slurry going again. So you have two barriers to protect from any groundwater contaminating into the aquifer. So very common, this would be a municipal quality well, so that higher level. And so with that, Ingham County mentioned that they would be completely fine with this. Their environmental person would sign off on this, and they are the ones who have full jurisdiction. Eagle would help out as needed, and we agreed that we'd have the city involved in the whole time. So we'll share all that information. We're not going to hide anything. So when we send something to Ingham County, we're going to send it to the city just so they can be a part along for the ride too. So we want to be open and transparent about that. But after reviewing it and going through the process, we are controlling those issues. Additionally, we are not in yet with Eagle, but we are preparing a due care plan, which I talked about last time. That talks about how we'll respond if we run into any contamination on site and how we'll deal with it, hauling off any materials, closing up any additional leakage that comes through. So all that will be handled with a baseline evaluation assessment to go to Eagle. And Eagle will have that on file, reducing any liability that we have. You would not have any liability on that piece as well. We don't have liability in the first place because it was not caused by our site in general. It came from a dry cleaner about 2 or 3 blocks away. I don't remember the exact address, but it is leached into the groundwater of the whole urban area. So unfortunately, that's what happens with those dry cleaners in urban areas. But I think that's primarily on the geothermal. I can add more if I need to.
I'm going to defer to Commissioner Greening to see if you had any follow-up questions for the applicant. Okay. Any other, Commissioner Denault?
Yeah. So in his memo, Cliff mentions a handful of things that he would like more information on, including long-term financial assurances, third-party review with cost borne by the applicant, and decommissioning plan and permitting. Are those items required by Ingham County, or are those additional things that we might put in a condition?
So geothermal isn't purview of land use. It's a mechanical system off to the side. We could switch to a different mechanical system. It doesn't fall in that piece, so I don't think that would be allowed. I can have Courtney come up if I need be. But then with that too, you know, we'd work through those pieces, but they're not planning to require any of those things. The financial assurance is asinine. It's absolutely crazy. Nobody's ever required that in any capacity. So that's where we got that email from Cliff. It was a little bit out in left field, but that just doesn't happen.
Any other questions?
To add to your piece, because I can tell you're looking.
Yeah, I don't really like being called asinine, but.
No, not you. I know the comments.
No,
Yeah.
or Cliff, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me to relax.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I think calling city staff who has a legitimate concern asinine, that rubs me the wrong way.
Apologize, but that would be asking us to take on all responsibility in case some other contamination affected the groundwater. That's just not reasonable by any metric, so.
I think Cliff's a great guy for what it's worth.
May I add one comment? So when Cliff sent that memo, it was before we learned more about the geothermal and before we had our group meeting and before I actually talked to Eagle and got the confirmation, and he hasn't been back to respond to the updates. So the concerns related to the financial assurances would be, I would just caution you to make sure that you're tying it into land use related requirements.
Yeah, that's fine. I think they were, I think, really insightful concerns that I did not think of. And I just appreciate city staff sort of raising these issues, and I don't think that we should necessarily ignore them. Yeah. And so sorry, I did not mean to yell at you.
No, that's good. That's my fault.
Anything else on the geothermal item? Okay.
Any other items?
Next item, yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any other updates, or do you want to just take questions?
No, whatever questions you guys have, happy to answer any further.
Okay, I had a few. Going to defer to the commission first, though. Any questions down here? Commissioner Overby, go ahead.
Yes, well, first of all, I want to thank you for being open and honest and working hard with the city and trying to address all of our concerns. I appreciate that a lot. I want you to solve a mystery for me. You had a previous proposal to the city.
Yep.
You withdrew that proposal. It had a higher number of stories and parking. So why did you withdraw that proposal, and what changes did you make in your proposal your subsequent proposal, and why?
Yeah, so that application isn't currently withdrawn. It's sitting there. It wasn't acted on as needed be, but what we looked at, and we wrote the memo, and I apologize if you guys haven't seen it. We sent it to city council and staff and everything when we changed plans. So what happened with the public parking garage is we were going to take that, and assuming our lease term is about $125 a month with the city. Currently, I think we pay $100 or $96 gets paid by the city to the Fabian Metzger family. So we saved $125 for that piece. And then at the city council meeting, there was not support for the pilot to help with the diverse housing requirements. So when you paired those two together, we were asked to take on a $7 million hit to the project, which we couldn't, was absorbed to be able to make the project feasible, which I noted at the city council meeting. So we switched to a lower density project, removed the parking to take out those costs and to be able to move forward with a plan that would work. And part of it also is timing. Building out an extra 3 stories was going to take a lot more time. And by not getting those approvals at that point, it just delayed that piece where we wouldn't be able to start this fall as anticipated.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Did you have any other questions, Commissioner Overby?
No, thank you.
Not at this time? Okay. Down here, any questions? I think that was sort of the biggest question I have. So no parking on site, just general commentary about why that didn't work out. I think you answered that. I think at some point you maybe were considering doing public parking there and then maybe private parking, and this site plan doesn't have either of those components. I do want to talk about the delivery plan a little bit. So for the short-term drop-off, it sounds like there's 10 spots allocated on Albert Avenue. That's a contentious issue. It's becoming more and more of a problem, especially on Grand River and the alleyway there. Can you talk a little bit about how your building would function with those spots in Albert and how you could essentially police that?
Yeah, so currently there's 2 stalls on the south side of Albert, right adjacent to our building. With our proposal, we'd take that up to 10, so we'd be adding 8 stalls. We don't have to. We're trying to do that just to add additional parking back into the city we're able. Both the Traffic Commission and Caleb Sharo in the Parking Department would love to have those just because it allows for more parking to be available. Those would be 15 minutes free stalls and then transition to meters from there, similar to the rest of the parking along that area of downtown. For us, that just allows for additional, for deliveries, for Amazon, groceries, restaurants, anything like that. So we feel that's a benefit. On move-in days when we have those annually, those will be helpful there. We can work to try to buy those parking permits on those days with the parking department. So it'll actually add more opportunity on that piece. None of that would affect the alleyway, though. Is there a question on the alley specifically?
Yeah, I mean, you heard some of the concerns tonight. Is there a potential issue with congestion and deliveries? Is there space for vehicles there? Could you just comment on that at a high level?
Yeah, we have an oversized loading zone along the alley. I think it's about 13 by 27, if I remember accurately. So the only really deliveries for the building would be intermediate deliveries for the coffee shop, which will be by small vans or smaller, so no major trucks coming in that way. So we wouldn't be adding any further on that piece, and then everything would be going through the front door in Albert. So,
Well, what about the businesses' deliveries on Grand River Avenue right there? Would those still be able to take place in the alleyway?
yeah, I mean the alley. We're not affecting the alleyway. We're not taking the alley by any means. Everything's maintained on our property. I guess
And I still don't quite understand the construction plan as far as staging and potential interference to the businesses there. I think you heard a lot of concerns earlier tonight. Could you address those concerns?
Yeah, so our construction plan would take place where during construction, we would take off the parking stalls on Albert and the sidewalk, and those would be shut off. We would work that out with the right-of-way department and building department. So all of our deliveries would happen on Albert, and we would not take anything through the alley, except for special situations that we'd partner with the city to work out. Additionally, we'd look to add wayfinding signs around and to help with people going to the division ramp or any other parking structures, as well as how to get into the businesses for them to be utilized during construction. So we'd plan to likely come to some sort of neighborhood meetings or the DDA, business owner meetings, and work with people to try to make that the best situation as possible.
Any comments or questions on those items or in general? Commissioner Overby?
Go first.
Just to add to, all the staging will be handled on site. We will be all on site or within that right of way that we take. So there won't be anything off site. We also won't use the Bailey lot. We'll direct everybody to the division ramp or the Charles ramp.
Okay,
For
thank you.
construction workers.
Did I miss a hand down here?
Yeah.
Oh, Vice Chair Wagner.
I was
And
just
then-
looking at Caleb Sharo's note for, he represents downtown parking for East Lansing, and he says no on-site parking provided, but then says they should provide some on-site parking for special residential or business parking accommodations like ADA or other special needs. Do you have any sort of considerations for ADA or special needs parking or?
We don't on that piece, and if you read his next sentence, it says, we know this requires variance.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but there's no ADA compliance?
No additional ones, no.
Okay, thanks.
Did you have a comment on that, Ms. Wrighton?
Just that the parking that they are adding through the Transportation Commission's recommendation provides for the 10 stalls that'll be public available. And as indicated, they'll use that for staging areas. If an ADA space is required, it would be striped as such. That would come out of the building department's requirements.
Okay.
But it's a public street.
Any additional questions? Oh, I think Overby and then Chapin.
You mentioned move-in day, and I'm having some difficulty imagining how you would handle the volume of students that would be moving in all at once on move-in day. Now, there's several days in which they can move in, but how will you manage that? How will that be handled? So
typically we put them on 15 to 20 minute rotations, and people pull up, and then we have, 4 or 5 kids at a time, and they keep going throughout a 8 to 10 hour period. So that'd be all handled by our professional management company on site. But it'd be out front in the scenario, and actually adding those parking stalls make it even easier. These are furnished units as well too, so it's not like they're bringing in couches or TVs and things like that. It's primarily clothes, cookingware, personal toiletries.
Well, and your tenants are aware of this rotation
Yes.
procedure and that they have a certain amount of time to.
When we sign the lease, we have basically process and procedures in a handbook that they are abided to, so they're able to get all that information at time of lease.
Thank you.
So just procedural, would you like a motion or comments? I'm ready to comment, but not necessarily ask questions. So
Yeah,
would you
I think-
prefer a motion before we get to that?
I would prefer motion. Well,
Okay.
I think we
It's up to you.
should make sure we're asking all the questions and
Okay.
all those are
Okay.
satisfactorily answered from the applicant, and then I think we can discuss it a little bit
Okay.
and then do a motion
Okay.
and vote on it is my preference.
So
Commissioner
I don't have a
Denault,
question.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I do.
Okay.
So talking about the alleyway, someone else brought that up. I am wondering, so it looks like you have a loading zone in the back.
Correct.
But if you look at that alleyway, there's not a very great way to sort of get out once you're in that alleyway. Do you anticipate that there would be any issues with a large delivery truck turning and trying to get out of that alleyway? Because from what I understand, having walked there, it's hard to go straight out.
Mhm.
It's like a very narrow exit on the, what is that, the east end.
Yeah. So the loading space is oversized to 13 feet, then we additionally have the sidewalk egress area there, so I think it ends up being about 16 or 17 feet, double the size of a parking stall for additional maneuver space. And we don't see any box trucks or large deliveries coming there because we don't have any larger uses that would need, full restaurant supplies and things like that would trigger that piece.
Do you anticipate that being a barrier, though, to the businesses that do use large suppliers for restaurants?
They handle theirs in the direct alley, so I don't know how that would impact them. because
Yeah,
we
I think my
handle
question
on
was
site.
about the alleyway. Maybe
May I?
we
I
should
think
pull up
there's a
the.
disconnect.
Yeah.
Okay, so the alley isn't going to be blocked. His loading zone is just marked on the pavement. So the
Yes.
use of the alley will remain as it is today, which is intended for loading and unloading. It's a designated alley for that and for thoroughfares. So they won't be parking vehicles. It's not there's no bollards marking it off. It's just paint indicating that that's an area for loading and unloading if they have a drop-off delivery for, as he indicated, the coffee shop. So the alleyway itself should continue to function as it has.
Okay, perfect. I think I was concerned with how narrow that east end exit from the alleyway was, and if that would be impacted at all. Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no additional questions, thank
Great.
you. There might be one later, but.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners.
We're
I
good for
appreciate
now. Just Let's have a general conversation about this amongst ourselves. I don't know who wants to go first, but I certainly have some thoughts, but
I'm okay with you going first. Jay.
I don't want to go first.
I'll go first. I'll jump in.
Commissioner Chapin,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Okay, so, hey, we've been given a lot of time and a lot of input, a lot of data to analyze this and break it down. I appreciated the extra 2 weeks. Honestly, after the input from the community at our public hearing, I had a chance to read the written letters. I thought they were very well written, every one of them. There's a couple that I want to pull out and comment on. Danita Brandt, am I saying your name correctly, Danita? So I thought that was interesting. I brought my comprehensive plan because I too wanted to quote the comprehensive plan. And we pulled different things out of the comprehensive plan. I'm not suggesting that you're wrong or I'm right, but it's interesting the way we glean information. So I was drawn to this. Before I read your letter in the packet, in the plan it says housing is one of our key goals here. East Lansing envisions a housing system that expands housing choices through appropriate and thoughtful density and design. Goes on to say higher density housing will be strategically concentrated near Michigan State University, downtown East Lansing, and major transit corridors to support local businesses. So I land in that language. I understand how you landed in your language, but it's interesting how we pull information differently from the comprehensive plan. Mike, I was struck by your letter as well. Local businessmen, respected local businessmen. And so I kind of think that if we bring people downtown, we support Crunchies and the Peanut Barrel. So that's my mindset. I understand what you're saying about parking, but I did want to pull your letter up. And there were some other really good letters, I thought, in the packet tonight. I read them. I thought about them. I'm also ready to vote tonight. I did want to say that I land a little differently on the parking issue. It seems to me that TDP, I can use Cody anymore, TDP is going to be on the flip side of this argument. I mean, the reality is they need parking as well. Otherwise, people are going to knock on the door, say, we don't want to come here, there is no parking. So I'm banking, wrong or right, I'm banking on the fact that the city, TDP, and the local businesses are going to find a solution to a need for additional parking so that we can access the local businesses, we can support higher density downtown, and I trust the decision makers in the business community and in our hierarchy in the city council, in the city staff and city council, to find a solution to that, which we're going to need to find a solution. Otherwise, TDP is not going to be successful, nor is the Howard, nor our local businesses. And this planning commission wants everybody to be successful, for sure. I also wanted to talk a little bit about the rental properties. We hear a lot from the neighborhoods about we don't want rentals in our neighborhood. This brings more rental property downtown, increased housing opportunities for those that want to live in East Lansing. I have to believe that TDP is sophisticated and bright enough and intelligent enough. Thanks for answering all our questions. Thank you for doing all the work that we have in our packet, but you're not going to make a multi-million-dollar investment in this project unless it's going to be a successful project. So I bank a little bit on your research, and I think the market will drive the pricing and the parking. I know there'll be a short-term inconvenience for local businesses, but I do think this is a great investment for the city in the long term. Clearly, there'll be some added tax revenue to assist with parking, added police presence perhaps, but that factors into my thinking here as well. So I worked hard at my decision, and I'm ready to approve this plan tonight and pass it on to the city council.
Commissioner Ramirez-Roberts.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next, and I'll kind of be all over the place because there's a lot going on here, and it's a confluence of a lot of issues that the city has been facing. First and most obvious of that is the parking, where this is essentially the fourth iteration of development that we've seen in the past few years on this site. The first being the affordable housing complex without parking, which the city said no to. Then there was the affordable housing complex with parking that sort of died away for, I'm not totally sure why. Then this project came back that also had elements of affordable housing and parking, and the city also essentially let that die via pocket veto. And I think the important thing to note about that project is the fact that the way that parking works in this district is a building cannot build parking just for use by its tenants. It isn't allowed. The only parking that they can build, and the parking that TDP provided with their first iteration of this, was public parking that essentially would be financed. They would build it, but it would be financed through a pilot TIF agreement, however that would have been set up, which is the same way that parking has been set up in our downtown since that ordinance has been passed. So the city had an opportunity to put more parking on the east side of the city. The application, still technically there, hasn't been withdrawn. Opportunity, I don't know, but if that still exists financing-wise and everything, but essentially, the city also said no to that, right? So the city has said no to the project without parking. They've said no to the project with parking. And we're getting into a cycle here where essentially to vote no on this project puts us into a very legally questionable area of discriminatory zoning. And also in terms of just the city has also, this was brought up a few years ago, the opportunity to purchase this lot if they so wanted to maintain it as public parking and undeveloped. That opportunity has also not been taken. The city's had multiple years to act on this and simply nothing has been done, nothing has been resolved, and every opportunity has simply been denied, right? So I think we have to consider that. Then we also have to consider the fact that parking is necessary in the downtown. It really is. Taking away that parking will put pressure on our parking system. I want a walkable downtown. I want higher density neighborhoods. The fact is, though, is that we live in Michigan. It gets to 0 degrees here quite a bit. We have a lot of elderly residents. We can't be expecting someone who's 80 years old to go and walk a quarter of a mile when it's 0 degrees out just to go to a store, right? It's just not going to happen. And it's one of those things where we can work towards walkability while also recognizing that a lot of our homeowners in the city who aren't able to live in Bailey have to drive to the downtown if they want to get there for most of the year, right? So that has to be an option. I really think going forward, we need to relook at that, the way that the B3 is set up in terms of creating it so that parking is allowed there with new construction. It doesn't have to be plain surface lots. We can do build above. We can do underground parking like we've already seen. But the fact of the matter is, that's not what's in front of us right now. We can't go and change that ordinance or deny that project because the ordinance hasn't been changed yet. That's just not how it legally works. And I also want to get on to the point in regards to student housing, because there's always pushback whenever student housing is proposed in East Lansing, and that's another thing where a project can be called student housing. There's essentially, student population makes up 60% of East Lansing, give or take, maybe a little bit more for the majority of the year, except for right now. And it's one of those things where any property built in East Lansing is going to have students in it. It just is. They legally cannot say students are not allowed here. That's housing discrimination. They can't do that. And the apartment building that I lived in it was built as student housing. As it faded, as the property got older, it eventually became more of just a mixed use. I was living, when I was a student, with a family right across the store. So, not across the store, across the hallway, right? So there's some things that are built with the intention of being student housing, and then those opportunities shift over time. We had another instance down where Big B used to be, where there were student apartments built there, now condos, I believe. So that's another thing. Like I said, I was going to be kind of all over the place here. And I think really also the concerns about parking being pushed into Bailey. That's a very real issue. I can say whenever I go downtown, a lot of when I've had to go downtown lately, if I don't want to pay for parking, which is always, I don't want to pay for parking, I'll just go and I'll park down at the high school and walk, right? Which lots of people cannot do. And if I wanted to park on MAC, it's just really not possible unless I want to parallel park, which I don't, because also I forgot how to. So that is also an issue that needs to be addressed with the parking on Bailey, because that does put strain on quality of life. But that also, once again, doesn't fall under our purview here in terms of parking enforcement within the city. That's something that needs to be taken up by PACE, with additional signage put up. And also, once again, the city needs to build more parking, whether that's through bond financing, whether that's through pilots and TIFs agreements with developers. That needs to be done. But once again, with every opportunity they've had on this site, nothing's happened. And I think it's one thing where, once again, did I much prefer the version that had parking? Yes. I also think the developer did too, because that's the version that they proposed first, because they knew it would be the easiest and the one that would work best for the community. But once again, the city said no, right? So I am going to be voting, sorry, I know I've gone on a while. I'm going to be voting in favor of this with the essentially understanding that the parking is an issue, but at the same time, we legally do not allow it. And with the one way that we do allow it, the city said no. And we cannot keep essentially preventing a property from getting developed unless we want to get ourselves into another lawsuit, which I think we can all agree the city's had quite enough of in the past few years. Thank you.
I think those are, both of you, just very well thought out and thoughtful comments that kind of level set how I see this. It's private land. City does not own that lot. They lease it. It's Zone B3. Now the developer's coming and they're building something that they're entitled to by right. We've seen this multiple times. We can debate the standards that are in the master plan. I agree with Commissioner Chapin. That's my interpretation of the plan after sitting through several of those meetings. I've seen that flyer pointed to a couple times before. I don't know who drafted it, but I think it's inaccurate. I think they've buttoned this up. They've answered all of our questions. There's no outstanding issues. And we're in this sort of paradox where we're trying to potentially punish them for not having parking on site when they're not permitted to have parking on site. And ultimately, maybe that's something that's revisited and we make changes there. I strongly prefer the plan that has the on-site parking. I'm still hopeful maybe there's a way we can make that work. They're not going to propose something that financially won't work, and I think Commissioner Chapin, you said that. So they took the parking out because the numbers just didn't work. There was a lot of community conversations with the businesses, with the neighborhood that led to the plan that had the on-site parking. Well, that's what they tried to do. They adjusted the setbacks. They're trying an energy efficiency approach to get the extra stories they're entitled to by right. I have some concerns from sort of a philosophical level with some of what they're proposing, but as far as our purview on the Planning Commission, the comprehensive master plan, them checking all the boxes they need to check, I don't know how in good conscience I could vote against it. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Denault?
Yeah, I think just to echo what my fellow commissioners have already said, that our hands are tied as far as being able to make any decisions based on the number one community concern, which is parking, right? I think we as a commission have always strove to really take into consideration the things that the public has to say about a project, because you are our neighbors, and I think that means a lot to us. East Lansing is a small enough community where, right, we go to your businesses, we see you at the grocery store, we see you walking downtown, and so, but I think my fellow commissioners, right, have really highlighted the struggle that we're in, that our hands are sort of tied in being able to acknowledge the one issue that people have been speaking about the most, and it's really hard. It's really tough. So I also would have preferred the version that had 2 stories of parking, and I really appreciate that TDP offered that option first because of conversations with the neighbors and with the community, and I think I agree with Commissioner Ramirez-Roberts. I hope that there's still a possibility that proposal can somehow rise again, but unfortunately that's not what's before us right now.
Commissioner Overby?
So I'll start out and say that I'm going to vote in favor of this proposal. I have some concerns. I like the first proposal better. I confess I don't understand how we let that slip through our fingers. I understand the issue of finances, and I often, to my distress, believe that that's what controls our decisions, personally and as a society. I have a request that I've made to the city, and I'm going to make it again, and that is, as a resident of the Bailey neighborhood, I will be dependent on parking enforcement to help us keep the residents that live in this building from flooding into our neighborhood and taking up the existing parking in our neighborhood. And I ask the city to beef up and enforce pace and their parking enforcement. That's what, under these circumstances, will help us in the city. Thank you.
Well said. Okay, seeing no additional comments, is there a motion?
Okay, I guess I'll make the motion.
The new king of the motion, Commissioner Ramirez Roberts makes a motion.
I scrolled past it, give me a minute.
I think it's on page 15.
Yeah.
It is 15.
Yeah, here it is. Okay. I move to recommend approval by City Council of a site plan request from Cody Dietrich on behalf of TDP Acquisitions LLC, located at 530 Albert Avenue, using LEED Gold certification incentive in Section 50-8006 of the City Zoning Ordinance to add 2 stories above the 8 stories allowed under Section 50593 of the City Zoning Ordinance for a total 10-story mixed-use development consisting of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom dwelling units and ground floor commercial space. This decision is based on the following findings and determination as to each standard applicable to this site proposal under Section 50-38 of the City Zoning Ordinance, with reference to and reliance on the applicant's application, plan submissions, public testimony, city staff analysis, and review, and other submissions relative to its proposed development. Number 1, Section 50-38, subsection 1, A through D, requires the site be designed and developed to provide a logical relationship between the functional elements to effectively serve the purposes for which it is to be developed and to be reasonably compatible with surrounding properties. The proposed use meets this requirement because the use aligns with the comprehensive master plan and matches the surrounding use. Number 2, Section 50-38, 2A through D requires the site to be designed and developed to minimize the disruption or loss of its desirable natural elements and to enhance its overall appearance by incorporating those elements into required open spaces and setbacks. The proposed use meets this requirement because few to no natural elements currently exist on the property, and a new 10-foot vegetated side yard is provided along the entire western boundary of the property, as well as additional landscaping on the northeast corner and interior courtyard. In addition, the site is less than the minimum 1 acre, which is exempt from the stormwater requirement standards. However, the applicant has reduced the amounts of pervious lot coverage by 834 square feet and included an on-site retention basin, leading to a reduction of stormwater runoff as compared to existing conditions. There is no proposed storage of hazardous substances on this site. Number 3, Section 50-38, 3A through Q requires the site to be designed and developed to provide safe and efficient access for all forms of travel and to minimize impacts on adjacent public facilities. The proposed use meets this requirement because it meets the minimum requirements for bicycle parking and the traffic study commissioned and submitted by the applicant. It meets the minimum requirements for bicycle parking, and the traffic study commissioned and submitted by the applicant does not anticipate a significant traffic impact. In addition, there are approximately 700 total parking spaces in the public parking system within 1 block of the site, 616 in Division Garage, 616 in Division Garage, 67 in Bailey Garage under Albert Place, and 35 left over in Bailey Lot 11 at the corner of Bailey and Albert. Also, there are stops for 5 bus lines 1 block away on Grand River. Number 4, Section 50-38, 4A through J requires the site to be designed and developed to facilitate the efficient provision and maintenance of adequate public services. The proposed use meets this requirement because the site is currently serviced by municipal water and sewer and includes trash removal and recycling. Number 5, Section 50-38, 5A through J requires the site to be designed and developed to minimize any risk of pollution of natural resources and to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. The proposed use meets this requirement because the applicant has reduced the amount of pervious lot coverage by 834 square feet and included an on-site retention basin, leading to a reduction of stormwater runoff as compared to existing conditions. Number 6, under Section 50-38, 6A through E, unless the project is exempt from this requirement pursuant to subparagraph 50-38, 6D, the site shall be designed and developed to contain public art as defined by Section 2-31, 31(3) of the City Code. The applicant has included an art component in their proposal which fulfills this requirement. Okay, let me go, and I have some conditions to include here. Pursuant to zoning, these are the approval conditions. Pursuant to zoning ordinance sections 50-36D and MCL 125.3504, subsection 4, the above approvals are subject to compliance with the following conditions of approval, which the Commission finds to be reasonable and necessary to ensure that the plan conforms to all applicable requirements and to otherwise comply with the requirements applicable to approval conditions under Section 50-36D and MCL 125.3504, subsection 4. Approval is in accordance with the plans provided by the applicant and per testimony, subject to revisions as required. 2, all required permits shall be obtained from the Department of Planning, Building, and Housing for all construction as well as for exterior signs. Number 3, the project shall be designed and developed in accordance with all applicable state and local statutes, codes, and regulations. 4, site lighting shall be installed in accordance with the requirements of Section 50-155 of the City Code. 5, water and sanitary sewer extensions and connections shall be approved by the city engineer in accordance with all applicable state and local regulations. 6, final grading, soil erosion control, paving, and utility plans for the site shall be approved by the city engineer in accordance with all applicable state and local requirements. 7, LEED Gold pre-certification shall be provided by the applicant and reviewed and confirmed by staff prior to City Council vote to allow for the use of the incentive for the additional 2 stories above 8 stories. 8, LEED Gold certification shall be provided by the applicant and reviewed and confirmed by staff before occupancy of the 2 additional incentive stories shall be permitted. And finally, number 9, approval from the City of East Lansing Transportation Commission is required for the proposed Albert Avenue temporary loading area prior to undertaking any work.
Solid work. Motion by Commissioner Ramirez Roberts. Is there a second?
Yeah, anyone want to reread that?
Second.
Yeah.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Chapin. Any discussion specific to the motion? All right, seeing no discussion specific to the motion, can we do a roll call vote, please, Ms. Wrighton?
Commissioner Donald?
Oh, because you seconded. Yes.
Commissioner Greening?
Accept the proposal.
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Keeping us on our toes.
Okay.
Commissioner Overby?
Yes.
Commissioner Putz?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramirez Roberts?
Yes.
Vice Chair Wagner?
I say a reluctant yes. I think I have some issues, but I think they are out of the purview of the Planning Commission and more appropriate for City Council, so yes.
So that's a yes.
Yeah.
Commissioner Chapin?
Yes.
Chair Sullivan?
Yes.
Motion passes. Project recommended for approval with conditions.
Thank you. This item is now on to City Council at a to-be-determined City Council meeting, potentially some point in July.
July 21st.
July 21st, it has been spoken. Okay, that takes us on to our next item tonight. Item 8.2, consideration of a request from Kesava Kunapareddy on behalf of Brightwell Group LLC for approval of a site plan for a 37,748 square foot addition to the existing Brightwell Behavioral Facility at 3512 Coolidge Road. The property is on B1 General Office Business District. Ms. McCarthy.
Hi, Grace McCarthy, Associate Planner. I just want to start with a disclaimer. I did just get married, so I have a new last name, but I haven't done the legal paperwork and won't for a couple months, so you'll probably see McCarthy and Whitney, and either is fine, so don't worry. But I just want to let you know, you'll probably see a little bit of both.
I was a little confused.
Yes, you'll probably see a little bit of both for the next couple months till I finish the paperwork.
McCarthy, Whitney.
Yes, whatever, either works. So this project was here for a public hearing on May 27th. The commission did not receive any public comments, and we have not received any comments since that time. Since that public hearing, the applicant has addressed nearly all of the outstanding review items that were with them at that time. One of those is a reduction of parking spaces. The first proposal version had 131 spaces, and they've reduced that to 92 spaces, so almost 40 space reduction. They also have provided information on the existing trees on the site. There are 38 existing trees. Based on the plans, they're proposing to remove 22 and maintain 16, including some of the existing required landscaping for the existing building. There have been no concerns from our arborist about those proposed removals and then subsequent landscaping for the new part of the building. We also received a review from the fire department. They did not have any concerns. The applicant has acknowledged the outstanding engineering items and is currently working with the engineering department to have them all resolved during the permitting phase, and the engineering department has voiced that they're comfortable moving forward as long as those are finished before any building permits are issued. Our environmental department also voiced that their wetland maps show that there's potentially a wetland that's small in size at the northeast portion of the site. The applicant has currently started the process with our wetland consultant to do a delineation to determine what the size, or if that even is still wetland, what the quality of that wetland is. And then depending on the findings, they would have to go through an approval process that could involve City Council, Commission on the Environment, just depending what that delineation comes up with. And so the environmental team has indicated that they're comfortable with that running parallel to the land use approval process, because there is that separate wetland process that they would have to get approval for. One of the only outstanding items is that they'll be required to have a public art contribution that's approved by the Arts Commission prior to their building permits. And then I do just want to note that there is a draft motion on page 10 of the agenda item report, which is the page following my staff report. Because this project was a little bit more straightforward, we did work with the attorney to draft a motion that simply references a page with draft findings. Of course, you can always adjust those findings and conditions as you feel is reasonable and fit, but that's just a draft based on the items that are in the staff report, so that you don't have such a long motion for that one.
Questions for city staff on this item? Commissioner Ramirez Roberts.
Yeah, I have one, and sorry. This is just regarding the notion of the wetland, and obviously wetland consultant and everything. Just from looking at Google Maps and from the site plan itself, in the northeast corner, isn't that already kind of like a drainage basin or something like that?
Yeah, so they do have some detention in that area, and they're also, so that could be part of it. That's part of why the analysis is going on, just to determine what is there, if there is an existing wetland, if it's a wetland that is, what kind of quality it is. There's higher quality that's contributing more, or something that's been degraded. So that will kind of come out of the delineation and research by the consultant.
That was all I had.
Commissioner Denault. Sorry, and then Putz.
Oh, no, you go first.
I just had a question. So I see the traffic study box is marked with an X. Is it not required, or are they not doing it?
Yeah, it wasn't required due to the number of trips generated, because of the nature of the project, that it's an inpatient facility. I believe that their rough calculations, it didn't meet the threshold of needing a traffic study.
That makes sense.
Is my understanding.
Good question, thanks. Commissioner Denault?
Yeah, I think when we had this for a public hearing, I asked a question about the trees that were going to be removed. So out of 38 existing trees, 22 are slated for removal and 16 will remain. And I think I had asked for comment from the city arborist. Do we have any comment?
Just
about
that they
those
didn't have
trees?
any concerns about
Okay.
the removal. They didn't have any specific comments about the removal plan.
Perfect, thank you, that's very helpful.
Of the outstanding issues, I'm going to ask the same question here I asked on the previous agenda item. Are there any outstanding significant enough worth consideration of us withholding a vote on this item? Are they being worked out? Is there any major barriers to
No, I don't
consideration?
think so. I think the couple of things that are outstanding, the only zoning related item is the requirement to provide an art requirement. I think there was a little bit of confusion because the existing development, when it was approved for a site plan, it did provide an art requirement. But based on the ordinance, because of the scale of the expansion, they are required to do it again. So they're required to provide another art requirement or some kind of contribution to the art fund. So that's something that they can definitely address. There's plenty of time for them to do that before pulling any building permits. And they're working with the Arts Commission on that. As far as engineering goes, and speaking with the engineering department, there wasn't anything major that would affect the site layout or anything like that. There were some comments related to the water main easements, the entry drives, but nothing major, and they were open to just making sure those are resolved before permits, which is pretty typical. And then I think that the only other thing is the wetland, but that has its kind of own process that, like I said, Cliff was comfortable with running parallel to this process.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. Commissioner Denault?
I also saw in the staff report that the property is required to provide 5 bike spaces, which are not on the plans, but there are 5 existing parking spaces. Do we understand that those will be maintained?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
that's the impression that I got from the applicant, and that's included as a condition in the draft motion, just to clarify that. But they do have the spaces there from the previous development. I just think they weren't on the plans that I saw, so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no additional questions, I believe the applicant is online in the queue. Do they have any comments?
Well, let's find out.
Oh,
Good
there
evening.
she's unmuted.
Odette, are you online?
Yes, I'm online. Are you
Okay, yeah,
able to
Can,
hear me?
can you hear us?
Yes, I am able to hear you.
Okay.
No comments. Grace pretty much summed up the whole deal basically, and we were here at the last planning commission and just explained the project, and we've been working very closely with the city planners and Cliff as well to do the wetland study. So any conditions that you guys have that if we have not met yet, we're more than glad to take any comments. So we're hoping for an approval, and if there are any conditions, we're glad to meet anything else.
Linda, can you just leave her unmuted for a second if they have any questions?
Yep.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Yes, Odette, I'm going to leave you unmuted so you can answer questions from the board.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners for the applicant or even city staff? No? Thank you. We appreciate your time and for giving the background. I think my concerns and questions have been sufficiently addressed. I think this particular item makes a lot of sense for the area it's located in, which is essentially a business corridor. Any other comments, or are we ready for a motion?
I'm ready for a motion.
I can make it.
I'm going to mute the applicant then.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I think Commissioner
want a
Putz
break?
beat you to
I'll
it.
take it.
You can
Oh,
certainly.
no.
Okay. I motion to recommend approval of the site plan request from Kesava Kunapareddy on behalf of Brightwell Group LLC for a 37,748 square foot addition to the existing Brightwell Behavioral Facility located at 3512 Coolidge Road. This decision is based on the findings and determinations to approve site plan for Brightwell Behavioral Facility and the conditions of approval dated 6/24/2026, which are attached to the AIR for this agenda item and incorporated into this motion by this reference.
Motion by Commissioner Putz.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ramirez Roberts. I think those motions were equal length, so you guys are even for tonight. Okay, any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. This item is approved and on to City Council at a to-be-determined City Council meeting, maybe July, I'm not sure. Alicia's not
Yes,
here.
it'll be on July 21st.
Okay.
Yep.
July 21st.
28 additional patient units for mental health, to
Yep.
support mental health. I think that's a great project, so.
Agreed. Good fit for the area, too. Okay. See Ms. Wrighton. I think this is her item, right? So should we wait a second?
This one, the green code one is me.
Oh, it is you. I have,
Yes,
I have
yep.
you noted. I wrote her down for item 8.4, sorry. So that moves us on to item 8.3, consideration of proposed ordinance 1575, amendments to chapter 50 of the city code, the zoning ordinance, and chapter 4 of the city code to modify requirements related to electric vehicles and charging stations, parking ratios for automobiles and bicycles, landscaping, green space and trees, and the keeping of bees and chickens. This is just cleanup, right?
Yes, yep, so you guys saw this, at your June 10th meeting, had a public hearing and recommended approval of the ordinance as drafted. This is just coming back to you because we realized that there was in fact an error, that was brought up by, Mr. Hagan in his comments, and when I was looking at the table, I was looking at the incorrect row. So it was meant to be, that one-bedroom and efficiency apartments require 0.5 spaces, not 1.5 spaces per unit. So that's the only adjustment that we're looking for, just to fix that. Because this isn't going to City Council until their August meeting for a public hearing, we were advised that it would just be best to bring it back to you guys to adjust your recommendation if you're comfortable with that.
Makes sense. Thanks for the overview. I know this one's been deliberated at length and it's a technical fix. Any other questions or comments on this one? Okay.
Well, Mr. Chair, as a member of the Green Code Study Committee, I'd like to volunteer to read the motion.
I would love that for you and for us. So Commissioner Overby makes a motion.
Move to recommend approval of ordinance 1575 as presented in the June 24th, 2026 Planning Commission packet, noting the following changes from the recommended ordinance language on June 10th, 2026. A correction to require parking ratio for Class A multiple family dwellings to require a 0.5 spaces per efficiency or one-bedroom apartment.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Overby,
Second.
seconded by
As another
Commissioner
person
Null,
on the
which
Green
is
Code Committee.
Also fitting, so a lovely conclusion to this item. Any more discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. This item is now on to City Council at a August City Council meeting.
Yep, August City Council.
Now we have to wait for.
It's okay, it's pretty simple. I
Okay.
got it, I could cover it, yes.
All right, so this is item 8.4, change October 28th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting date to October 21st, 2026.
Stop laughing, Grace.
Yes, at the last meeting, the Planning Commission voted to reschedule the October 21st meeting to October 28th. Mr. Bartley forgot that we actually partially needed to give up the room to election staff for early voting, I believe. They're using this room, so he's asked us, and he's not here tonight, so he's asked us to bring this back to you to reschedule that back to the 28th.
Fair enough. Any concerns, questions, comments about this date change? All right, this is,
Do we need to make a motion?
we
Yes,
do, yeah,
yep.
it's on page 3. It's a tough one. Or no, excuse me, not on page, there is no motion
There
on
isn't.
agenda item, so I think it's just a simple.
I can take a
stating
stab at
state.
it.
I was looking at the last one.
I motion to change the October 28th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting date to October 21st, 2026.
Efficiently said. Moved by Commissioner Putz, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Overby. Any discussion on this date change? Seeing none, all's in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. The October 28th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting date has been changed to October 21st, 2026.
You can feel free to give Landon a hard time for that.
And we have been given permission by city staff to give Mr. Bartley a hard time for the switcheroo and mix-up, which required, I think, 2 minutes of our time, so. Okay, moving right along, that takes us on to item number 9, commissioner concerns. Any concerns from commissioners or overall comments as we close this out? Commissioner Denault?
I promise not to make this a thing every meeting where I have some commissioner concerns. I just wanted to explain my behavior just now to my colleague, my dear colleague. Just, there's a lot of literature on this, and as a cultural historian, I'm happy to refer you to several articles. But the act of publicly telling a woman to relax and regulate her emotions has a lot of gendered undertones, which I'm very aware of, and I just feel really important to recognize. And I know that's probably not what you were trying to do. And I only just wanted to say something because I feel like we have a really collegial and friendly rapport here on the commission, and I just wanted to explain that I wasn't yelling at you. I was calling out decades of, centuries of patriarchy.
Actually, let me just respond to that. That was my fault for the very reasons that you just mentioned, seriously. I whispered to Chelsea after this, I have to admit, I apologize. I sort of blanked out, and I didn't hear him use the word asinine. And so here's my buddy Chelsea, and that was all me, and I apologize, and I'm sorry. And so, we'll put that behind us? All right.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
But it's proof that we're not allowed to sit next to each other anymore.
No.
The one time we sat next to each other.
I can't do that. Anyway, that was my fault.
Switching it up
all the
on
way,
me.
through and through.
So, and, I think we all really like Cliff and want to stand up for Cliff, and he's a great guy and is a valuable asset to the community too. So thank you for your comments and remaining strong planning commission colleagues and friends down there at the end of the table. So appreciate you guys.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Overby?
So to repeat myself over the last several weeks and to bring up an obvious issue in the city of East Lansing, and that has to do with parking. It has to do with adequate parking for the people that have businesses in the city, adequate people for parking for those of us that use those business, and adequate parking for people that live here. And the city is failing in this issue. And it keeps coming up, and we in the Planning Commission have our hands tied on what we can say and do about this. And I bring it up as an issue that I think is a significant failure for the city. There is a city zoning code that says you can't consider parking. So perhaps the zoning code needs to be changed. Perhaps the city needs to look at this issue. But I bring it up because it's going to come up repeatedly as we look at issues and investments in the city of East Lansing.
I agree. I think it's going to require some creative solutions. And just as a general comment, the thing I struggle with parking is what the expectations and needs are now for parking, very much so, in my opinion, are not going to be the same 10, 20 years from now. So whatever changes we make, I think need to have strong foresight as to what, and it's tough to do, right? Like the state of Michigan has a council that explores mobility issues in the future, and they look at policy issues and make recommendations. There's a lot of considerations there with ride sharing becoming more prevalent and autonomous vehicles becoming more prevalent. I do fear building new parking garages that are going to sit vacant and unused, 20, 30 years from now, and that could be potentially an epidemic in communities. So I don't have the answers, but I do share your concerns. I think it's a serious issue, and especially in the short term. So, okay, any other commissioner concerns? All right, closing this part out strong. So good job, guys. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Ramirez Roberts, seconded by Commissioner Denal?
Sure.
Is that what I heard? Okay. All those in favor of adjourning, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:32 PM.